Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them, or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 3,072 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Another great week, another massive amount of growth. Thank you all so much. I can't keep telling you guys enough how grateful I am for each and every one of you. All the repeat viewers, all the old viewers who are putting up with this Xbox 360 content. And I know we are coming to the end here. I think once the store officially closes down, I myself have closed down on some of the Xbox 360 games I'm picking up. I've actually been starting to look at more PS4, Switch stuff that maybe I should get. And then who knows, you know, we can do similar things to this on those consoles, on older consoles, get back to talking about, like, I still want to do a video on tactical games. So as far as ideas go, don't worry, we got tons of content coming. We can even just do entire collection videos, which for myself would be cool, because the last collection stuff I did was back in 2020, and I have added a lot of stuff since then. So if that sounds interesting, let me know, but that's not why you're here today. We got 10 more games on the Xbox 360 that you need to go out and panic buy right now. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
So starting off, we have another game that was mentioned by several of you guys, which, if I don't say it enough, I love it when you guys recommend games. Even if it's not something in my wheelhouse, I'm almost always going to pick it up, like that head coach game. Really enjoyed it. So thank you guys for your suggestions. Keep them coming. I am more than happy to take a look at them on any system, too. Any games you think I might like, let me know. I always like to try stuff out. But the game that we're starting off with this week is a game called Time Shift. Now this, I've seen this a lot. I've almost bitten on it. It really was just $10, I want to say $5 to $10, depending. I mean, now it's probably a little over 10, but it's a pretty quality game. So it's another third-person shooter, a la the Gears of War mechanics. But what makes this game so interesting is that there is a time, or it's a first-person shooter actually, but there's a time manipulation element. So you have the ability, which is hence the name, Time Shift. Now there's this opening cutscene. I don't understand what the hell's going on. Your guy just gets into this suit. You get dropped into this area, and immediately you're part of some resistance against machine-looking things. Whatever, I'm in. But the Time Shift allows you to either pause time, which can do cool things like you can walk over electrified water. You can rewind time. Now that, say a bridge collapses, you can rewind it so it doesn't, but when you're in rewound time, you can't affect anything, otherwise you'll make a paradox. Or you can make time go slowly. And that allows you to have, 3 enemies in front of you, or someone's about to get executed, you can make the time go slow, and then you move in real time, gun them down. And that's really all I gleaned from this game, and that's all you really need to get from it, because story-wise, I'm sure it's some thing where you are sent into the past and the future, you need to save X or this, or, standard Terminator fare, but fun mechanics, fun gunplay, really, really cool with that time-shifting mechanic, and could only see it getting more and more interesting the later and deeper into the game you get. And competent. It's a competent shooter. One of the things I didn't mention why I didn't like the Mad Hazard Eat Lead game is that in that game, when you would come out of cover, you would stick your head out and then your gun out. And so you would pretty much be open to getting attacked constantly. And this is a game where it doesn't do that. And it's just really, really fun. If you find this one cheap, get it. I've seen it cheap everywhere. Sure, it won't be after this video, but if you can find it, it is some nice, dumb fun with a very interesting time control mechanic, which I've seen a lot of cool time control mechanics. I mean, this one had it, Blades of Time had it, then Singularity had some really cool concepts going on back in the Xbox 360 that I haven't really seen anywhere else in these modern games, or modern era really, outside of Titanfall 2. And Titanfall 2 is a hidden gem itself right now because no one really thinks about it. Okay, next one. So this is a game that I haven't really seen anyone talk about. Much like the movie when it came out, it kind of came and went and was really lambasted for the CGI Jeff Bridges. So it's a sequel to a beloved, I think it's an 80s movie, which is kind of video gamey, but it wasn't. And that is Tron Evolution. So this is apparently the prequel to the Tron Legacy movie, which they did that a lot in the late 2000s. Instead of just making a direct movie tie-in game, they would make a movie adjacent game, like Enter the Matrix, having you play as Ghost and Jada Pinkett, or kind of just in general. I can't think of another example, but this one isn't taking place in the movie. So in this, you play as kind of a nameless Tron robot. Now, I know nothing about the Tron movies, have not seen either of them, which I really should do. But from what it looks like, there's multiple copies of Jeff Bridges as a robot in the Tron world, and you have these these functions, and then you have these anomalies, and these anomaly programs kind of become sentient beings, and then there's this whole ethics about can you erase them or not, and then you're thrown in there into this really interesting third person, almost shooter, beat 'em up, kind of platformer. So you have the movement kind of like Titanfall 2, where you can run on walls. There's a almost a boomerang aspect where you throw this ring thing, and it wasn't great by any means. I could see it's very mindless as far as the combat goes, but it's fun to look at. It's colorful. I would imagine if I know the Tron movies, it would either be really cool or really bad. So that's why I'm not sure, because that's just how these movie tie-in things go. But one that I think I got it for $10. You can probably still get it for $10 to $15. And another solid third-person action game that I could see being a good 4 to 5 hours worth of fun to get through it. There's a multiplayer aspect, much like many of these games are multiplayer. Now, this takes me to a comment I had the other day where it's like, how can you get an idea what these games are like if you're only playing for the first couple of hours? You gotta remember, in the Xbox 360 era, most games that came out had a campaign and then they had multiplayer. There were not these constant, like, Fortnites or Call of Duty Warzone, or even MMOs where everything was online and it was only focused on multiplayer. You really had a campaign, and then you had multiplayer maps and matchmaking, so like deathmatch, and sometimes you'd have things like King of the Hill, Capture the Flag. Almost every game that came out, I feel like, from 2005 to 2012 had that formula. And so a lot of those campaigns were not that long. They were more geared towards beating them on multiple gameplay settings. So easy, normal, hard, and then unlocking even a harder mode. And it's nice. They weren't full of collectibles and bloat and BS. And that's kind of how those two games were. And that's just something I like. That's definitely something that this game was geared towards. In fact, it's geared more towards the multiplayer, as that was the first thing you could select. And even the single player mode feels a little multiplayer-esque once we get into it. But the next game is Section 8. So I've seen a few people talk about this, not a lot. There is a download-only game that is not this game, but there's a download-only sequel that I think is only available on the 360 store. So that's something we're going to lose here in a couple of weeks if you don't download it. But this is another, I call it Halo adjacent. So it plays and looks a lot like a poor man's Halo, which is why I'm guessing it was overlooked. And it's nowhere near as good as Halo, obviously. But it's fun. You have, like I said, it starts you in the multiplayer, but you can select the campaign. And in the campaign, you are launched down into the world, once again, like Titanfall. You can see where you're going. And then as you go through the map, you are given objectives. So you're given the hack this terminal, or go and capture this node, or destroy these ballistic missile areas. And so you have you and you have 3 other squad mates, and then you'll notice the enemy will have their own kind of squad of people come up against you. So there's not 30, 40, 50 enemies. It's just the same 4 enemies. And if you die, you then get a spawn where you have to be dropped down again from heaven and then run back to the area. So you can find yourself dying very quickly, dropping down, and then having to run back to the field. So I can see that being annoying, but that's also why it feels like even in the campaign, you're playing a multiplayer game. Now, it does have a cool thing where you can have the option to lock on to an enemy temporarily, And it basically gives you aimbots. So you hit a button, you hit the A button, and then it allows you to just unload on an enemy. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. You have a jetpack. There's a power shield that slowly will regenerate, but then your health, once it's done, it's done. And you can, I think, regenerate your health by taking over a node or getting to the next objective. I don't know. I didn't play a super ton of it. Just because, like I said, it's very much a Halo-adjacent game that's much more geared towards multiplayer. The multiplayer even says on the back you can have 32-player online multiplayer. So I can imagine, much like Chrome Hounds, it probably got pretty nuts. I don't know if the servers for this are still open or if they were used that much. And also, South Peak Games, another South Peak Games sighting. I tell you, these guys, they don't make great games, but they make interesting games. And everyone that I've played has definitely been memorable. Though I think one of them was pretty damn terrible. Okay, next game we're going to talk about was another one I don't hear a lot of people talk about. It's another movie-adjacent game, which was a movie that, in my opinion, especially now in retrospect, because there's 6 movies in this franchise now. This was the 4th one. The first one not to have Arnold Schwarzenegger, even though he does have a cameo. And that game is Terminator Salvation. So this is the one that starred Christian Bale and Sam Worthington. You play as John Connor. You play as John Connor and you get what? The music is the Terminator music. They actually use the theme song from a movie, guys, in a game, and it works. And it makes me want to play the game. Who would have think it? Well, obviously not now, but back then they actually got it right for once. And the movie's actually not as bad as you might think. It doesn't have Arnold in it, but it's an interesting story. It's one of the only things, I think the first 4 Terminators are okay. Obviously the first 2 are the best. Terminator 3 is meh, but decent enough. And then Terminator 4 is kind of the same, but after 5 and 6, whew, especially 6, whew, let me go back to this. So it's really nice playing as John Connor. It's nice attacking the machines. You feel the danger of the machines. You feel like you're actually playing through that opening scene in Terminator 1. And it just keeps going from there. Now, I didn't get super far into it. I don't know how. I don't remember anything about the movie either. It's been close to 20 years. So I don't know if Sam Worthington shows up. But if you like the Terminator franchise, this is one. I got this on Father's Day at half price books for like $10. Well worth it. I think it's still floating around there. Is it going to go up? I don't know, but it could, especially because Terminator fans might actually find a game that's pretty decent. Okay, here's one that you guys had told me to do a couple of times. Now, I was worried about playing it because I didn't think I'd be able to get an idea of how it plays because it looked like an Oblivion type game. It looked like an Elder Scrolls, Witcher 3, as far as it being open world, it's not. And it's actually made by Arcane Studio, which makes the Dishonored games, Deathloop, things of that, which I've never really cared much for any Arcane game. But Dark Messiah, Heroes of Might and Magic elements, even the brief time I played this, I had an absolute blast. And the way I would say is this is like a stripped down version of Elder Scrolls where you can kill an enemy and don't have to loot the corpse. You don't have to worry about being encumbered on yourself. But it has that high fantasy setting. It has that first person feel. And then you select one of 4 classes. So you can be a warrior, mage, thief, or a hunter, range person. I picked the warrior because once again, I find that in these games, I as much as I'd like to be a mage, I don't have the patience for mana consumption. And as much as I love playing a rogue in WoW, I do not want to play a game stealth. If stealth is an option, I'm almost always going to avoid it. Unless it's really satisfying getting those execution kills like in something like Tenchu. I do not like playing a game in stealth. And what's fun about this is that it's just very meat and potatoes. You have a stamina meter, but the first thing you do is you're Sparta kicking an orc off of a bridge, and already the game's like, okay, I'm down for this. You then find a relic, and it says 1 of 7 relics in this level, which immediately I'm like, wait a minute, level? This is a level-based game or a section-based game? Thank you, Jesus. I do not want to have to worry about going and backtracking. I don't mind not getting everything at once, but already I did not know this would be how it would be going in. And it's just a lot of fun. You can pick up mana potions, health potions, but you're not picking up a ton of inventory. You're not picking up a ton of items. It's not a looter shooter. It's not a inventory management sim. It's just a meat and potatoes. You are going through a Dungeons and Dragons style world, hacking and slashing, or might and magic, I guess. Hacking and slashing. You get a certain amount of rage filled, and then you can unleash kind of a crit damage, and then there's an execution you can do if the enemy's on the ground. You have the chance to behead people. All things I really enjoy. And there's even a town portion there right at the beginning where you have to defend a town from some invading orcs and goblins. You get on a ballista, you attack the dang thing in the eye, it blows up, bloody, gory greatness. It's funny, it reminded me of the beginning of Infernax even, where you're the new guy in town and you help defend it from this big beast. And I'm like, I'm down, let's go, let's play this. I had to stop myself from playing more of this, and just that's the calling card of a good game. You don't always get hooked in a game immediately, at least especially not lately, not modern size, because it's so much slower. But in these games, they really hook you early, and when you know you have a good one, it's much like the Templar, the first Templar. That was like, this is gonna be dumb fun, and that's how Dark Messiah felt. Like, that's gonna be dumb fun. You level up, you do all this other stuff, but it's not. There's no choice required. It's just the more experience you get, you then unlock what appeared to me. Now I could be wrong. I could have missed a tree, but it just looked like the more you level up, you then unlock abilities. And I just gotta tell you, that's something that's so nice. Sometimes, like, don't make me wrong, I don't mind having a spreadsheet, simming out my character, mid-maxing to the max, finding the best item. That's fun too, but not every game needs that. And so this one was a breath of fresh air, one that I would put up there with one of the most intriguing of the games I've played, like one that I'd really like to beat. Okay, now here's one that I'm throwing in there just because I didn't know these games got physical editions, and as I was obsessed, not with this one particularly, with the original trilogy, but Angry Birds Star Wars, I didn't know got a physical edition. And if you guys don't remember how big Angry Birds was when it came out, especially if you have gamer friends, see if you remember anyone who didn't have an iPhone that was asking you to play Angry Birds on their phone, and you probably knew me, because that's what I was doing. When Angry Birds Star Wars came out, my hype kind of had been over by then, because I think Angry Birds 1 and 2 had already come out. And even when I say 1 and 2, it really was just map packs, and that's kind of what this is too. But the birds get special force abilities and different things here and there, and you have ones that are shooting blasters. I mean, who knows? I think this came out when? This came out in 2000, LucasArts was still around, so it was before Disney, 2013. That's when it came out, 2013. Oh, so right after the purchase. Who would have known this was the last of the good Star Wars we would get? And once again, it's a game that doesn't have a manual, so you got the manual inside the case. But it's just dumb fun. Another good, fun one you can play around the family, a family-friendly game, which a lot of these Xbox 360 games are not family-friendly. You can't distrust them, but this is one you absolutely can. You can play with the wife, the kid. So just one, I mean, it's still like, I've heard the prices are going up on some of them. I didn't know. I bought a lot of games that actually, I got a lot of 14 games for $30. And the reason I bought that lot is because it came with Import Tuner Challenge. Now, I'm not a huge racing game guy. I am definitely not someone who's going to care about something about tuning my racer. I pretty much, I had to jump on that deal. This game goes for like $70, $80 or $60 at least. And I don't typically sell my games. I am very close to saying, okay, I'll sell this game, because I did play this. Once again, I'm not a huge racing fan, and I really didn't quite understand what was going on. Now, I believe this is actually a series called, Tokyo Street or something like it got renamed, much like that happened with the Crash Time series here in America as well. So like Crash Time 2 is called Autobahn Polizia, something of that nature. But yes, Import Tuner Challenge. I put it in, played it, I beat the first race, and then it seems like you're just driving on the streets of Japan and anywhere, and you're just looking for races to happen, and you're supposed to drive routes, and I don't know, I was not following it at all. Maybe for some people they'll like it. I didn't. It as far as the driving goes, it was a serviceable driving game, but it was so narrow. It was at night. Not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea, but I wanted to try it because I got 14 games for $30, one of which was that. And one of the other games that came with that was a game I wanted to play. In fact, I thought I picked this game up on Father's Day. I remember I had it. The guy had a copy, and he's like, oh, I got to resurface this disc. Go get another one, because he had 2 copies. I got the other copy. I put it down. Somehow, when I looked at my bag at the end of the day, I didn't have this game in it. And that was 007 Quantum of Solace. So yet again, another movie game. So we got a lot of movie games this week. This one, it's been so long since I've seen Quantum of Solace as well. I remember not liking it as much as Casino Royale. Casino Royale came out on such a high note, and Quantum of Solace was a direct sequel to Casino Royale, which at the time was very unusual for Bond films. It still kind of is. I mean, the whole Daniel Craig quadrilogy, I think they did 4 movies. All of them just kind of leaked into the next one. But this one really just, I didn't like the girl comes back and he's just kind of a whiny crying boy during it. It just was weird for James Bond to be like that. Game wise though, I heard the game was pretty good. So much like I did with Bloodstone, I played the opening mission before the credits roll, and immediately, it's not Bloodstone, but it is, I gotta tell you, the James Bond games in the 2000s are pretty damn good. Outside of the remake of GoldenEye, everyone I've played has been pretty damn good, including this one. The gunplay was exceptional. Getting into cover and going into third-person mode and shooting that way, and then getting out of cover and going back into first-person mode was such a cool kind of tidbit or just nuance for a first-person shooter, where it's almost a hybrid first-person, third-person shooter. Because when you're in cover, you then kind of have third-person like Gears of War feel. And then when you get out of cover, it goes into a first-person's feel. And I just couldn't believe, like, how is this game so good? How does it feel so good? And then I saw who made it. It's made by Treyarch, the guys who did Call of Duty Black Ops, the first Black Ops, one of the most popular ones. And obviously they're still making Call of Duties now, but this was right around that time. This might have been the game directly before they did Call of Duty Black Ops. And the gunplay in this game is exceptional. It is very, very solid. It feels like if you go into it thinking you're playing a James Bond Call of Duty game, then it really just completely blows the doors. Like, oh, wow, that is what this feels like. Because getting the shotgun even, like the shotgun had so much weight behind it, was so satisfying to use. And I played a lot of shooters this week, and this one was probably the best one as far as just the innate feel of the game. So another cheap one. I see it all the time, floating between $8 and $15, and I highly recommend picking it up. Now, as far as it being based on the movie, I don't remember anything about the movie. I feel like it seems similar. I got into a little bit of the second mission, and then I kind of remembered it being in that town where he was fighting against the dude in the green shirt, or whoever that guy is. But then I'm like, wait, was that the Bourne Supremacy or one of the Bourne? I don't know. Anyways, good game. Check it out. Cheap. Especially if you like Call of Duty campaign type stuff, this is one to look for. All right, and then here's kind of one that I just wanted to throw out there because it's a great value, and it's one that no one's brought up. It's not an expensive game. It's not hard to find, and I picked it up back in the day before I even knew what the Platinum Hits series was, and I think I mainly picked it up just to play Streets of Rage 1. Because my older brother it was his copy. I lent it to my friend. My friend lost it, and then my older brother never let me forget it. So I'm like, well, maybe if I get it on the Xbox 360, let him play it, he'll finally forgive me. It didn't really help. All right, and that is the Sonic Ultimate Genesis Collection. This collection has, I want to say, 30 games on it, and if you're looking for an essential Genesis collection, even more so than the Genesis Mini 1 and 2, this game has everything you could want. It's got all the Streets of Rages, all the Golden Axes, you got all the Sonics, it's got some of the rare indie gems like Rystar and Gain Ground, you have all the Fantasy Stars, there's even some Sega Master System games hidden in here, one of which is Golden Axe Warrior, which is a very good Zelda clone that I should have picked it up back in the day when it was not as expensive as it is now. You got to have Altered Beast on it. and so many other games that you don't even really know about. Like, it's got like the random ones like Comic Zones, Decap Attack, all of this for like $9. When you look at these, like I have a lot of these games on the Genesis. Oh, the Shining Force 1 and 2. So it's just a great value, and just one I wanted to throw out there just so that if you guys have an Xbox 360 collection, you really should have this game in it. There's no reason not to. It's not the greatest emulation of these games. I still prefer playing it on the actual Genesis, but if you don't have all that money or that space, that's a good one right there to pick up, and it's still like $10 complete, $8 complete. I mean, I don't even know. I think when I picked it up, it was like a $20 game. Like, that thing was never been expensive. But who knows? After this video, probably will be. All right, and then the last game we're going to talk about, and this is a good one. Now, putting the game in and immediately you're at a strip club and it's zoomed in on a girl wearing tassels. Just be warned if you're playing it around family. When I turned it on, the game even asked for a code that came with the game and then said, oh, you can download. It's basically a nude patch for the game, and that game is the Saboteur. Now, I remember seeing this all the time, and it just did not look that interesting. It really just, in my opinion, had I known about this game back in the day, I would have picked it up, because every time I've seen a lot of YouTubers cover this, and everything I've heard about it makes it sound very, very interesting. But one of the things that's really concerning is that code was delisted back in, I want to say 2012, but the game still prompts you to go look for it. And even if you did have the redeem code, you can't get it. Now, yes, it's just something as silly as basically, it makes the strip club dancers topless, and I guess it opens up a special room where you can get a lap dance, or I don't know. So it's not a big deal that it's gone, but it is interesting just as far as we're going to see more and more digital media go this way. And whereas in this one it's not important, it is kind of funny that the game is still prompting you to go and download this when that is gone. But as far as what the game is about, it is taking place back in the 40s. It's in, I think it's in France, or Paris, France, when it's under Nazi occupation, and you are basically a saboteur. You are trying to sabotage the the Nazi strongholds, take the city back, build hope, get freedom fighters. And what makes it very interesting thematically and stylistically is that everything is in black and white when it's under Nazi occupation. And then once you've inspired hope in the citizens, so Nazis will be in control of it, but then once you've inspired the hope, it then colorizes. And it colorizes it in a way that's very almost neo-noir-esque, because it goes with the black and white noir. So it's very cool. It's striking to look at. But what's even more interesting is that playing the game, it initially to me was like, oh, this is a GTA clone, because you go around, you can drive over people, there's bands of Nazis driving around, which is funny. In the first mission, I just ran over 2 of them and drove on my merry way, and nothing happened. I think they were looking for me, but they couldn't find me. So there's that, and the red armbands pop in the black and white. So it's very cool. The art direction on this game is exceptional. But another cool thing is that you have the ability to free climb like it's Infamous or like it's an Assassin's Creed game. And to my knowledge, I've never played a melding of a GTA drive around, get missions, that then allowed you to climb all the buildings and get up there and go and jump down zip wires. Which that was another thing that Messiah, Heroes of Might and Magic did, is that you could climb ropes, and it felt a lot more agile than Oblivion, which was cool. And that's what's cool about the Saboteur, is it feels a lot more. I remember when GTA 4 came out, when Nico was finally able to climb things and thinking, oh my god, mind blown, you can climb in GTA. Lo and behold, you were doing that in the Saboteur a year earlier. And it's even better. Like I said, it's more like Infamous. But you still have those same, parameters. And that one, along with the Dark Messiah for this week, is one that I want to jump into some more. Now, that game is getting up there. So when I grabbed it, I think it was around 20, but I've seen it go up as high as 40. So that one and Dark Messiah have gone up. Dark Messiah 2 I've seen is like around $40 now. So not all these are cheap, but I think if they sound interesting to you, like always, pick them up. You won't regret it. None of these games are bad. So none of these games are bad. Maybe Section 8 isn't that great, but the rest of them are definitely well worth picking up. Oh, Import Tuner, not for me, but I'm sure if you're a racing person, it will be. But yeah, Saboteur, great game. Pick it up. And that's it. That's another 10 games we got for you guys. And I'm tired. I once again, thank you guys so much for just being here, for all your comments, suggestions. It really does mean the world. I'm going to keep saying it. Had you told me at the beginning of this year, I was just hoping to get to 2,000 subs, and now we are closing in on 3,100, and not slowing down. Like, these videos have been doing so well, and just thank you guys. Thank you guys. I can't say it enough. Hey, that's what you get for this week. As a reminder, I release a new video every Tuesday. I do have a Patreon. There's channel memberships if you want to support the channel more, which I will work on making those better. I just, there's only so much time in the day. It's much like I would love to start doing some live streaming once I can afford a computer, which we're getting closer to that. Then maybe we can go through some of these games together or some of the other things and, experience them. And you can see what I'm talking about. But yes, that's what you get for this week, guys. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.